Locken, Larry Locken. You're tuned into Consciousness Conversations with my host, Carolyn Lanier Roberts. We're going to talk a little bit today about not nighttime dreaming. We're going to cover that on a future subject, a future show. We're going to talk about daydreaming, imagination, creativity, and how they can all tie in together with each other. Um, and Carolyn Lanier Roberts is at her humble abode in San Antonio, Texas. I'm up here on the Oregon coast, on the West Coast. We're in the United States, both of us. For those of you listening overseas, we really, really appreciate it. Or up in Canada, Mexico, wherever you may be in this great big planet of Mother Gaia of ours. Like I said, hey, I'm Rocken, Larry Locken, and let's go ahead and get on with the show. Oh, I forgot that we are live on also. I apologize for the fans on YouTube and Twitch. Let me start that over again. This is Rocken, Larry Locken with Carolyn Lanier Roberts on Consciousness Conversations. And we're going to talk about daydreaming, creativity, and imagination. Bear with me, folks. We're live on Twitch, we're live on Instagram, we're live on Facebook Live, and YouTube, of course. I'm for reasons I won't get into, and Carolyn, I'm sure, is so surprised at this. I'm banned from TikTok for a little talk I had the other night on their live, but we won't go into that. It wasn't, I didn't do nothing wrong, but every time I get to blame, I was framed. Okay. Anyway, we're going to get into it. And Carolyn Lanier Roberts, deep in the heart of Texas. How are you this morning, girl? And how's the weather down there? How about that?
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's kind of hot. It was beautiful earlier. The mosquitoes definitely. I'm great. I'm awesome. I'm excited to have this conversation, and I'm grateful for being here.
Okay. Well, yeah, exactly. Me too. I'm very, very excited to be here. And the thing about we were talking about the dream situation, and we figured out we were both the same kind of dreamers. I did a lot of daydreaming when I was younger. A lot of them thinking, a lot of them imagining in parallel realities. And sometimes I'll walk around and daydream, but I'll be conscious in the same dimension we're in as well. But I'll be thinking about other things like that. And I really think that it spawned me to have certain ideas in my life. And maybe when I was younger, I was taught to not go with them. You know what I mean? Yo, quit that daydreaming. Quit. What are you doing? You're not paying attention. Did you ever get that kind of flack ever in your life?
Yeah, yeah. It was. Yeah, I did a lot of daydreaming, and the other thing I would say is that I wasn't in my body enough, or yeah, when I was younger as well, and because I was too connected and not grounded, and um, then there's it's about balance, right? So
Absolutely.
I've learned how to do the dreaming and what we're going to talk about today, and to walk on this earth, to do both.
You did at the same time simultaneously, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Instead of just, I get the impression like now when I do it though, it's less of a this will be a good question to ask you. Do you still space out when you're doing it? Like, I mean, what they call spacing out. Do you like? I mean, would you be like if I came up to you and you were in one of those deeply? Would you maybe not notice I was there for a second? I haven't really done that kind of daydreaming since I was a kid. You know what I mean? Where you're really spaced out and just so focused in on it that you
Yeah,
wouldn't notice until somebody came up to you. I don't get that anymore because my mind is always running a million miles an hour and never lets me go there like that.
I do, but I'm also getting that I still have awareness of other things around me. That's just who I am now, and so I can be deep in some kind of dream, and I can still have. I'm getting like antenna like all around me now, if that makes sense. And so I'll have
Hmm.
awareness of something happening over here, and I'm in this vision here, and it's just where I am now, and I'm getting it's like my conversation with the mother, with the earth, and yeah, that feeds it significantly. I mean, I can be doing both very much.
I wanted to, not to get clinical, but I wanted to kind of give like the textbook definition of daydreaming that I had kind of looked up before the show in my notes. It is a normal mental activity where attention shifts from external surroundings into internal thoughts, feelings, and involved imagined scenarios. It is a common experience with many people engaging in it daily. While generally harmless, excessive maladaptive. I've never heard that word. Carolyn, have you ever heard that word in your studies before? Maladaptive, Maladapti.
Yes, I have, and it's
Yeah,
It's the interpretation of daydreaming from
An
actually my
unawakened
thoughts
mind.
are it's interpretation of daydreaming from a paradigm that really doesn't give it any validity, in my opinion.
You know what's funny is I figured that when I saw the word, but it says that it can.
Yeah.
Of course, I know you're going to be shocked that it says this. It can interfere with daily life and maybe a coping mechanism for stress or anxiety. Yeah, I knew
Okay.
that was coming. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Daydreaming is a form of mind wandering where the focus shifts from the present moment into internal thoughts, fantasies, or memories. Wow, yeah, that's profound. Why do we daydream? Yes, guess what, Carolyn? The reason we daydream is it can be triggered by a lack of external stimulation or when the brain's default network takes over. It can also be a way to escape from difficult situations or to explore possibilities. Jesus Christ, they make it sound like I'm going out scoring a bag of crack. Benefits of daydreaming. Daydreaming can be a source of creativity. Now that's true. That we're going to touch on. Help
Yep.
with problem solving and even reduce stress and anxiety. Now, okay, kudos to them. Okay, but here comes that maladaptive part. The maladaptive daydreaming. And the phone's ringing in the background for distraction. It'll probably be a telemarketer. This refers to excessive daydreaming that interferes with daily life. So maladaptive daydreaming basically sounds like a form where they're trying to talk about it being, it's a coping mechanism for trauma, anxiety, other emotional challenges. Okay, last thing, oh no, there's signs of maladaptive daydreaming. They include
Wrong.
difficult focusing, you neglect responsibilities when you daydream, feeling disconnected from reality. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the treatment. If it's interfering with your life, you can seek. Oh, that's really profound. If it's interfering with your life, you can seek professional help. It can be beneficial. See, then they drop it at that. So, what the hell? Like what kind of help? Who, where, what? But I mean,
I
like,
I keep getting that list is I keep getting the phrase it ignores multidimensionality really clearly.
oh, yeah,
And it's like a flat interpretation of something that is actually three-dimensional. It's actually
mhm,
it's got many levels, it's not the way it appears. Um when I was guided, I told you that I felt like we should do this. It popped in my head on one of those days when I think the Schumann resonance had been like, we were in the void space where there's this complete stillness.
mhm, yeah.
And I I just kind of did what I usually do, which is I just kind of let my mind wander and kind of create and be in this space. And you know it's pivotal. And the reason we're having this conversation is I get very clearly within me, this is not a minor thing. This is like major. The imagination and creativity and daydreaming and your ability to envision your reality differently, from a higher level, from
Mhm,
different perspectives. Maybe these are all saying the same thing. Your ability to, and some people might say disassociate. The 3D would call it disassociate, but what I would offer is that disassociate is a word that was created and was derived from a consciousness that did not recognize multidimensionality. And it's necessary. It's necessary for people to be able to imagine a better reality for themselves. And it's not that you're going to walk into that reality. No, you have to straddle both. But it basically it lifts your frequency, increases your frequency, which is vital, because then that means
absolutely.
what you're sending out, you're receiving back. And it helps you, like, it takes you to a place of creativity. And creativity is also vital, because creativity isn't just art and creating something physical. Creativity is creativity with your emotions, creativity with how you want to approach your world, how you see things. It's the ability to, you receive an emotion, you have awareness of that emotion, and you may or may not step into that emotion because you're allowing your creativity to kind of see around things, the emotions, the physical reality in your life, how things could be different. And all
Mhm.
creation starts from the place of your imagination, because every single thought you have is created in another dimension. You are creator beings. We are creator beings. And so it's not it's not this disempowering space that has
Yeah.
been kind of programmed into us
Oh God,
about,
yeah.
it's not the whole staring out the window imagining these things. It also,
That,
I'm getting within me, is also, it also can be higher communication. It's when you're getting your downloads, it's when you're talking to your guides, it's when you might have a ringing in your ear and you get this complete download. These things aren't even considered valid in the space in
I,
which
I know it
you
leads
know
me, and I'm sitting here chomping at the bit to ask you. Like, it goes back into what we talk about in other broadcasts about the frequency being different in different eras, right? What I mean, that's not even an occurrence to these. I mean, how many parents over the years back in the day, especially in our day, have told, "Oh, quit daydreaming," without even thinking about it. Oh, he's daydreaming too much, and they're not even willing to. They're not even willing to explore why what he's daydreaming about, what he's can you imagine if we had a society where we explored that with a child about what they were daydreaming about and what they were going into instead of this, oh God, just quit. Oh yeah, it's such a simple answer. Just quit it, just knock it off, just don't do it, start paying attention. I mean, gee, like any normal, not normal, any human being, if they could in that situation to make everybody happy, they would hope shut it off and be able to focus on the mundane bullshit that's being told to them over and over again. And it's not the person's fault necessarily that's talking to them or the teacher, but it's or whatever setting that they're in, but it's just what we're programmed to that, oh, don't do that. Just focus on the lesson at hand, which is the same mundane shit time and time again. And it's got to be hard, I bet, for you if be doing doing what you do sometimes as a profession. Is that I mean, if a parent was to ask, "What do I do about this kid's daydreaming?" Can you imagine being asked that question and knowing that you have to answer that in kind of a because of your job in some kind of a 3D answer instead of oh, let him just go with it. But that the thing about it is, really, in reality, he should probably just go with it. But
yeah.
there's all these things that are put in place, and I know you had a quote that our friend and I kind of came up with this guy. I watched
This one, the one I told
Daniel
you before.
Smith. Yeah,
Yeah, the from Daniel Scranton. This is one that he was channeling the Arcturians. I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and
he's
I
the
don't
man.
remember the channel. I just can tell you what I wrote down because it was very valid, and it's very valid for the conversation today, which is imagination is the key to the higher dimensions. And I was also getting when you were talking, Larry, that it's also I heard very clearly within me. It's an escape out of the box,
Yep.
and it always has been. However, the locked downness of the 3D was more extreme. Now, now I offer actually that it doesn't even exist is what I'm getting. Um,
Yeah.
and I keep, I don't even know if I could put words to how significant it is that you tap into your imagination, that you imagine higher existences for yourself. And my offering that I'm getting right now very clearly within me is that as you're tapping into that imagination and those higher existences, maybe instead of it being this thing that you're pulling out of the thin air, it's actually you connecting with your higher self. It's actually you connecting with a higher aspect of you that is giving you this energy, that you're receiving this energy, and that none of it, to me, nothing is random, nothing is accident. It's fueling you. um and I'm not a professional. I can only speak from my experience, but I
Mhm.
really feel that there is no way you could imagine too much. There's no way that you could, if disassociation, if you want to connect it to that, which is a clinical term, yeah, maybe, yes, okay, in the hard, harsh 3D walking on the earth part of it, but you have to realize that we are all being shifted into both realities, walking on the earth, living in this 3D and the physical
Mhm.
world, and straddling into the fifth. And we're doing it more and more, and that totally depends on the individual, their state of consciousness, which is determined by the state of their heart. And to me, I feel like it's undeniable is what I'm feeling, how
Mm-hmm.
significant it is to have that imagination, because it's also the way out of, like, what I'm getting within me is your monkey mind, and like negative thoughts, and maybe even, and maybe this is debatable, but this is what I'm getting, is if, like, those that might be, I don't even like bringing this into this conversation, but there's validity to it, those that
Mm-hmm.
might be very connected to like an entity or
Mm-hmm.
something, and the way out of that um, trapped energy is to imagine higher, because
Mm-hmm.
it's going to lift your frequency, it's going to expand your heart, and in expanding your heart and moving your energy to a higher frequency, well, you're
Yeah.
not going to be a hospitable space for an entity, frankly. And you know, and what goes out, what you put out comes back. So your imagination, your creativity, your daydreaming, all of those that you feed into your personal reality out of like joy and excitement and wonder and curiosity, and all of that are like expressions of love, and all of that
Right.
that goes out into our reality, like, serves the greater good. It's not random. It's just like, when you've got like hundreds of monks gathering, and they're all in prayer and meditation, the meditation of peace. That's profound, and they've even said that's profound. So now the next step would be they can research how much the imagination, how much creativity, how much this energy, they put electrodes on somebody or whatever, how much it fuels our reality, because again, it's an expression of love. And
Mm-hmm.
creativity basically honors the unique beauty. It is an expression of the unique beauty of every soul. Is when I'm the three, my mind is like creativity, that's drawing, but it's not. It's every single unique expression that we have that makes us different. It's how you dress, it's how you speak, it's your tone,
Mm-hmm.
it's the color of your hair, it has it, it's how you present yourself, it's how you could even say it's how you have that conversation within yourself, with your higher self, with, you
Yeah.
know it, it's every single expression of you is about creativity.
Mm-hmm.
um and what I'm getting within me is the unique, the authentic you, not the you that is, I'm hearing the programmed you. The programmed
Mm-hmm.
you is not even you. It's this divorced, separated projection
Yeah.
of what is put out into the world, of what was accepted and assumed to be proper, is what I'm hearing within me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the authentic you-ness for every single soul comes through creativity of every single way that you can interpret that word. Um, and
Yeah.
what I love even more than creativity within me, although I love is imagination, and like no walls, no limits.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
that just, I mean, I'm one of these that, I thrive in imagination. I have like, what am I getting within me? I mean, I'm like, I have a doodle that, what was my doodle I just did? And you can keep talking, Larry, but I'm going to pop this up because I'm
Well,
hearing that.
yeah, I was just gonna say it popped up a whole bunch of shit in my head while you were talking. So also, so some of the things that I saw were, some of the headlines. Okay, I haven't even clicked on this, but demons within schizophrenia and maladaptive
Yeah.
daydreaming. And somebody asked the question: Is daydreaming a sin? I mean, if they, the first thing we want to, the first thing
That was not.
in the past and yesteryear, they want to hit on is what is wrong with daydreaming? How do we stop it? How do we stifle it? I don't know that like our grandparents' generation was ready for the onslaught, and then it carried into our parents' generation onslaught of people that were creativity, that were born here, multidimensional, right? The star seeds that
Yeah.
started to be born here, and even it started with the hippie and the baby boomer movement, with the the creature that thinking outside the box, that there could be something more
Yeah.
to this. There could be something more. So I was always sitting there daydreaming, dreaming of a new tomorrow, and yet I keep waking in the morning sun, but yet I kept fighting and fighting through it, and I kept hoping that we get to where we're at now. And like you said about it not even existing anymore, you're getting that from your guides. Well, Yeah, and I feel that too. And I have to pinch myself sometimes. Actually, now that I think about it, that we're in that spot now where, okay, we crossed over to the other side to where there is no turning. It goes back to what we say about every subject. We lead back into this, right? That there's no turning back. You say it all the time. There's no going back. There's no, you can't stop the tide from rolling now, right? So I
Yeah.
get the impression that while of course, Carolyn, I'm sure that generations have always had people that were sitting there daydreaming, but they knew goddamn well and better they better mind their place and not even go there. You know what I mean? And then the tide started to turn as these kids started to become teenagers and stuff into the 60s and born in the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It seems like the frequency has increased a little bit, but it's taken a couple generations to get where we're at. But you can see when you look back on it, you can see the progress because you and I have lived about 3/4 of that transition.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've been slowly getting out of the box more and more. And, it's been a conditioned existence. And, I honestly feel that it's a way of existence. It's a way of life in the higher levels. I mean, it's constant because you are at a place where you're so connected to your God-given gifts is what I'm hearing within me, and your abilities. And so it's like you're imagining and you're creating from every step. And so to me, in the old, the reason why we were cut off is because once you connect to that and once you can feel that expansion of like you in that space, it would mind you. It would point you to your power, right? To me, to the true power, divine power. And so that was the reason why it was cut off. And because in the old, it was about, survival and creativity and imagination, and all that has no place in survival, because survival is a place where you are, putting one foot in front of the other. However, what I will say is that to shift out of survival mode, it is the place where you imagine, where you are creative, where you daydream for however long you can do it, to slowly raise your frequency, to expand into seeing things wider, seeing more things, seeing more possibilities, and feeling that within yourself to open up. I'm hearing that line of thinking, honestly, to move out of the box and to expand into more. And then now I'm getting Viktor Frankl. Yeah, right. Viktor Frankl. And, you know, despite everything that happened to him, you are always free to think of what you want to think of, right? Your thoughts are free. I know some could argue with that. Yes, it depends on the sensitivity of a person, and you can pick up on the thoughts of others. However, you can pick your thoughts. You can be conscious of your thoughts, and from shifting those thoughts, because your heart is willing, you begin to shift things. And the other thing I'm getting is that I'm getting something about the delay time. The delay time, even with those in the 3D, between what they are imagining and what they want to change in their reality to what will be changed in their reality, is shortening. Yeah, it's not that there's that long buffer that used to be there. Even with those in the 3D is what I'm getting. That's shortening because it's about the earth now being pounded with, with the solar flares and all of these things we talked about in the other podcast, the Schumann resonance and the light codes and everything it's all affecting every body. And I'm saying that because we're all in these energetic bubbles, and we are being affected by that energetically, and it can be blocked up to a point, but we are now, like May 2025, we are at that place where no holds barred, everything is being poured and put and pushed to for those walls to come down within individuals, and that's a subjective thing for each individual. However, to me, the purpose of this podcast is this particular one. The topic we're talking about is basically, I'm hearing within me, an escape route. It is a way out of those boxes that individuals are living in or were living in, and they're trying to figure out, how do you go to this next step? The next step is going to come from your imagination. The next step is going to come from what lights you up, what makes you feel better thinking of it, and then from taking that concept, that idea, which, in the place of survival, if you're thinking of something that makes you feel better, I mean, that's huge. And then if you can take it the next step and imagine what would that be, you're basically communicating that to your guides, to your higher self. You're receiving it to you at your higher level. Okay, this is what you want. This is what, and it starts there. It doesn't end at imagination. It doesn't end at creativity. It's the grounding place where it all starts. It ends, and the final level obviously is the physical grounded manifestation in the physical level. But it has to start. And the starting of it is the imagination, is the creativity, is the daydreaming, because it has to start. It's not going to happen, and it's not going to change until each individual starts. And that begins, I'm hearing, like this snowball. As long as they continue to put faith into these actions, which are internal within the soul, this imagining of something better and desiring that better. The next step of that, obviously, is the physical. But the creativity is like, it's like allowing your child within you to speak. And everything starts from that, and healing starts from that. I just keep getting, it's such a vital step. Larry?
Yeah, yeah. I think that we underestimate the power of daydreams. I would even dare say that most great inventions that we've ever had come, especially during the Industrial Revolution. I mean,
Yeah.
sure that I can see. I imagine that Nikola Tesla was an incredible daydreamer, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I just think that most of our great, especially thoughts that were inventions that were really cutting edge, like when it started to get into the electronic age, and when you're talking
Mhm.
about like computers and things of that nature. And I think that when we're looking for, it's almost like we're looking for a connection of love when we're daydreaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're looking for that connection. We're trying
Yeah.
to find that similarity, but we're also thinking about things that could be possible to enhance our lives. Like, like for instance, the invent of a computer, the invent of the internet, all things that were thought of
Right.
out of not any malice, but things that can in the initial stages of any of that stuff, well, except for the neutron bomb, but other other than uh, I mean, other than that, most great inventions were thought of to help people's lives out, right? Some were for malice reasons, but I mean, those are kind of few and far between. I was just kidding with the example of the bomb, but not really. But that's about the only example I can think of where, probably wasn't a good idea to go with it, right? But you know, um, great inventions that have to be thought of, and then sometimes these great inventions have to have other things invented too before these things can be put in place, right? Because you can visualize ahead of, wow, wouldn't it be nice if we had a system that could do this, or a computer system, or a gadget that could do that. But then sometimes those kind of things, they're going to need somebody that knows how to the technical aspects of it, right? If they don't themselves
Yeah.
know. But then sometimes people that aren't technically literate too, when they're making an invent or creating an invention, it comes, these things come to them how it's done. They may not know anything about physics or the inner workings of
Yeah.
electronics or anything, right? But the answer comes to them. I've seen heard of cases like that, and I could see it because I've kind of on a small scale had it happen to me. I can't, I can't give you an example right now, honestly, of it, but I have, and it's been a subject I don't know anything about. Just like I've seen people that start to do artwork that never have in their life before, that couldn't draw a stick figure before, and then they start, they start drawing, right? They start doing light language, and they start, things like that. Or they come up with a thought of an invention, and the one thing on a side note, the one invention that I always had that I wanted to come up with, but and I don't know why. There must be some reason. But I don't know why this hasn't been long since 50 years invented. A line of products that silence. Okay, a vacuum silencer, a lawnmower silencer, a or a chainsaw silencer, something for a blender even. I wonder why they don't never have came up with so I was always wondering what could, and that's one thing I could never fix. And that was my main daydream. I would daydream about, what could silence, a line of products that could silence those things. Get your blender silencer, get your, vacuum cleaners are to a point now where you get a new one, they're not really loud, but you know what I mean? The noise. I mean, if they have silencers for guns, I don't know why they can't have them for chainsaws and loud lawn. And I just
Yeah.
never could understand, and I don't know the mechanics of it, so, um, I've never had it explained to me. Every time I tried to ask an adult about that, right, I'd mention that to an adult, they would just slough me off and be like, "Oh, give me a break. You can put up and deal with the sound." Yeah, so, I mean, that's the kind of mentality, though, you would face. I'm sure a lot of those guys that have come up with inventions and fought hard to get them through or to get
Yeah.
somebody to take them on and look into them, right? They had to go up against that kind of mentality. Oh, that'll never work. Nobody's ever going to. They said
Right.
that about they told Jobs or Steve Jobs or Bill Gates the same shit about computers. No, who's going to want a home computer? Can you imagine? In the '70s, can you imagine a home
Right.
computer? Meanwhile,
Yeah.
can you imagine this guy sitting at a desk with nothing but a pen, and some paper to write on, and a secretary with an old typewriter to get carpal tunnel on. Oh yeah, who's going to want a home computer? But they weren't thinking about their consciousness wouldn't let them think that there could be something to it. So how could they possibly realize that it would be a good word processor to start with? And things of that nature as we go down the line. So you're faced with that kind of mentality, but imagination, and I'm sure the stifling of imagination, right, has cost us. Probably, we can't complain about the past, but it seems like it's probably stifled a lot of inventions for a while. It's probably stifled a lot of thoughts that we won't know of for a long time again until they come back around in somebody's consciousness, right? But we really ought.
Stifled growth.
Yeah, on a
Yeah.
positive note, though, we have come a long way. And I mean, 50, 100 years in a span of time is nothing. We have come a long way in the consciousness realm. Look where we're
Yes.
at now compared to that when we grew up. I mean, shit was so closed off, and then the internet it
Right.
was the times, we were ripe for it, and it just, it got everybody together, and still people were complaining about the internet, oh, that's going to be that internet's just going to be the end all. Well, they thought that about, I said this the other night on my show on TikTok. I said, look, if people thought that about the remote control for the TV, oh
Hold on
God,
one second,
it's going
Terry.
to make people lazy. It's going to make people not want to get up. My kid won't have anything to do in the night when I need him to go get me a beer. Well, I guess he'll still get me a beer, but I won't have him to change the channel. I mean, just everything. Every people are so resistant to a new thought of doing things. And with daydreaming, I think that in our future, like with quantum learning and quantum education, I think children should learn or be taught to go with their daydreams, and we can lovingly keep them on track if they get kind of silly. And if they do get really out of hand and silly about it, we can lovingly keep them on track with what they're thinking about. Tell them, talk to them, and get their mind back on what they're focusing on. So that's not really a problem. But I think overall we really need to start exploring children's daydreams from the time they get into Head Start. Maybe really start getting at them with it when they get into for kindergarten or first grade, about their daydreams and what kind of things come to them, and what kind of things may spark if a classmate of theirs or somebody or a fellow student hears what they have to say. Maybe it'll spark this thought in one person and in another person, and between different minds being hooked up, different things can be thought of to be invented. I mean, that's just my thought. I mean, it sure as hell wouldn't hurt. I mean, I'll put it that way.
I mean, my thoughts are that it would fuel the confidence of the child that somebody would want to hear their own personal, you know, the things that they see and
Mhm.
their own, that them basically, it would fuel their confidence that somebody would be interested in that. That would be huge, and it'd be beautiful, very beautiful. The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. The creativity, imagination with what's been invented, and it's how it's led. It's how these things are created. Everything. Somebody imagined it. Somebody saw it within them. Somebody drew it, but they opened themselves up, which means it's their open heart, mind. The mind comes from the open heart. It's from that space that they've seen all this. And then I was getting a little while ago, that when you regularly let yourself shift and just imagine and create from the imagining and just let the walls down is what I'm hearing from this higher place, because this is basically love, right? From this place is where you connect with higher beings. You can get the downloads, you can get the guidance. It's this open space where you are allowing yourself to be the vessel, honestly. And it could be channeling. Channeling is another one of those that you're opening up, right? But the same line is that you can have the creativity and you're letting your imagination just go. And it's to me, it feels like this. I'm almost hearing secret weapon within me. It's this fuel, it's this fire, it's this burning light within you that moves you throughout the day. Especially if it's a heavy day, the daydreaming that, oh wow, I would love this to happen, or wow, I would love this to happen, or the imagination of anything, pigs flying,
Yeah.
anything, and just letting you have that open space, especially when you're like, I'm thinking like when you're at the DMV, and it's
Oh, yo, fuck, God, yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah, right.
you
On
know,
yeah, the first of the
pouring
month or whatever, end of the
crap.
month, yeah.
Yeah, and the
Oh,
truth
God.
is, before we had cell phones, you really had to have your imagination, because you're sitting there and you're maybe looking at you might be looking at a
Oh,
magazine,
acting like
you
you're
know.
reading the same thing over and over again in that magazine on that one page. You'd really get to know that article really well. Exactly, if they had magazines, right? You'd really get to know that article really well. But it made me also think too that when you're sitting, like even people that are sitting in a boardroom when they're, on an executive committee or something like that, and they're coming up with ideas. Well, people are listening to other people, but also people are doing their own form of daydreaming because they're thinking of a concept, they're imagining it in their mind, and it spurred
Yep.
something in them. And I think almost, man, I mean, we maybe need to get to a point where we almost need to get out of somehow calling it. I don't want to go, get all technical, get away from calling it daydreaming because we have to. But I mean,
Yep.
it's got such a stigma to it, right? Because these really aren't dreams. These are our conscious thoughts. Everything is
Mm-hmm.
like what you said. We're always channeling, right? Even whether you're
Yep.
writing a book, whatever the hell you're
Yep.
doing that makes you thought, you're channeling. Whether it's your higher self or extraterrestrials, whatever. That's another thing. But you're always when you're having a thought in your mind that isn't right in your perceived reality, right there. I would call that some form of daydreaming. You're sitting there thinking of a thought. Somebody said something in a meeting, and you're sitting there tapping your pen on your paper while you're supposed to be taking notes or think you look like you are. And most of the guys, when I was on the committee, just doodled. But you're thinking about a thought, and it's kind of those aha moments. So, you're sitting there, huh? Well, if I do this, and then you get stuck into thinking about that, right? And you can get sidetracked from listening to the same minutia that you're supposed to be sitting there hearing, whether it's a classroom, a board meeting, whatever. You are daydreaming about a concept, and I bet some of the well, obviously, some of the best ideas, of all of the best ideas, have come from that kind of a thought, daydream, a thought, because it's not in our reality yet. So they're imagining that into perspective, right? Yes, some of them have been come from nighttime dreams. Okay, but that's another story, I'm sure. But those are few
Yeah.
far between. But most of this shit is from daydreaming, right? And imagining and what could be, and imagining to break that paradigm and move forward. That's what I'm thinking anyway.
No, it is. And it's like, as you're talking and I'm getting, writers. I mean, how do you think somebody becomes a writer? How do you think somebody becomes an inventor? How do you think somebody creates these things? How does even somebody who's an entrepreneur, they dream, and they allow their imagination to come to receive this. It is a vital skill. It's something that's already done. It just hasn't been I'm feeling and hearing within me officially recognized. But it's there and it's been there. Um, yeah. Yeah. I'm hearing within me, it's been set. It's been put into a
Mhm.
space of like goal setting in the 3D. They talk about goal setting and, how are you going to come to that goal setting? Well, you're going to imagine what you want your higher choice to be. You're going to imagine it and you're going to visualize it and you're going to get really creative with where is your heart leading you? What really lights you up for whatever that goal is? That's your imagination. It's an extremely valid step, and it, it goes way beyond writers and inventors. It's entrepreneurs, and it's used in your daily life. How you got to get creative. You got a toddler that's running around, and you got to get really imaginative with how you're going to contain that little feisty soul, especially if you got to get work done, right? I mean, something maybe put a lot of creative things around there, that are age appropriate for the child. I mean, everybody has to tap into their imagination at some point, and when they do that, that's the place where they again, I'm hearing within me, escape the grind, escape the box. I'm hearing within me, escape reality, their reality. If they're one of these souls that is, they're in a treadmill,
Yeah.
but it's like, this has always been a secret weapon is what I'm getting within me from the divine.
Right.
For every
Yep.
soul in that treadmill is your imagination. In that treadmill is your daydreaming. In that
Because he feels
imagination, in
real.
that, it's your creativity. It's
Yeah.
always there, and it doesn't matter what's happening on the external. It's not that it's not valid, but what creates your external, I offer, is your internal state. So as you allow yourself to imagine better, it's raising your frequency. I'm feeling within me, some people will say that's a bunch
Mhm.
of bullshit, but the
No,
truth
yeah. Right.
is, the mentality that says that that's bullshit is from a soul that has not allowed themselves to just be, to
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
just to allow their child within them to exist and to express in their
Mhm.
life. It's not that the child rules. The child walks next to the adult, doesn't walk behind and
Mhm.
wasn't duck in front. They walk next to the adult, and the adult holds the hand of the child but allows the child to express themselves. The
Yep.
child knows they're safe because the adult's right there. And this is the place where it's like the soul, that visual I just gave you is the place where the soul and the person has had this, they've done inner work, or they're doing this inner work, and they're beginning to realize that kindness is very valid for themselves to move forward. And that's about, to me, that's the energy about the child within self.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
the place
yeah.
where you open. That's the place where you, yeah, again, I'm getting what you escape out of the box. Getting that
Mhm.
so clearly. And this is why I'm getting this as a survival skill, because
Mhm.
there are many right now, and I don't like to say they're in the treadmill, but I'm getting, they're in this treadmill and they're in this lower frequency, and
Yep.
we've all been there. It's about life. We go up and we go down. But
Mhm.
what moves you back up, despite anything happening external, is your imagination, is your
Yes,
creativity, is
absolutely.
how you allow yourself to exist in your own personal space. And it can just be inside you, but you deserve to exist and to be free within that space. And when you hold that frequency within yourself, that who you are and what you express is valid, because you are a creator being, all of us are, it goes out and it comes back, and it's very vital. And that's why this podcast is about imagination and creativity and daydreaming, because it's the way out of that treadmill. It really is.
Yeah, what I was, but what kept coming to me when you were saying that, I wonder how many, how we're always in society, whether it's whether it's bad things like drugs or whether it's other things, we're always like, oh, we're always so anti people escaping reality. But what if we looked at daydreaming as something like, oh, I don't know, regulating like our emotional, keeping us a little bit sane, regulating our emotions, helping us
Right.
to connect with a more loving, higher self version of us, right? Instead of like stifling it all the time, we're always wanting to stifle creativity because it's something that's outside of the little box of the,
Right.
leave it to Beaver, mayonnaise sandwich, eating fucking black and white. Yes, mom. G Wally, oh G Ward, you were a little
Yes,
hard on the
sir. Yes,
Beaver last.
sir. Yeah.
You were yeah, G Ward, you were a little hard on the Beaver last night. Ha ha ha. But really, those kind of things. I mean, really, I mean, it can. These things can help people to overcompensate for maybe some deficiencies that they have, so they can gain the confidence. And if they're encouraged to explore these daydreams, I say I'm going to get a little old school, within reason. But I mean, you know what I mean? If they're allowed to stay focused and keep on their daydreaming, um, and explore those thoughts that they're having, and if there's a pattern of it that's leading to other thoughts that are productive and things of that nature. And this is something that we're going to have to once we're open to it as a society, but we're going to have to study for a couple generations, probably, and really keep track of the progress of some of these daydreams and where they go. I'd be curious to do a study on a bunch of kids that were interested in doing a study and following them
Yeah.
throughout with their daydreams and seeing what their daydreams can take them, how much of that they can manifest into reality in a 3D world or a 4D world that we're going into, how much of that they can manifest, right? And I think the time is really ripe to eventually start doing that sometime sooner rather than later. And so, it can compensate. It can really compensate for a lot of things to encourage daydreaming and, and I'm not, I know when I say that, I feel like I'm maybe somebody will be thinking, oh yeah, they should just avoid reality and daydream all the time. No, but you daydream anytime you have a goddamn thought about a vacation somewhere, you're thinking about a day off this coming weekend. Anytime, I mean, let's face it, Carolyn. Anytime you really think about anything that's not going on in that exact second right in front of
Right.
you, you're daydreaming. But then it'll tie back into
Right.
living in the now moment. You should just live in the now moment, live in the now moment. But
Right.
but if you don't know the difference, I mean, I'd hate to even go down that road about the difference between having people enjoy the now moment they're in, and then the daydreaming. I think you can do both, and if you do both, it'd be a beautiful combination. But we're not quite there yet as a society. But
We're getting. Yeah. Hey,
right,
Larry,
right,
hold on
right.
1 second. Hold on one
Yeah,
second, Larry.
yeah, yes. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to the Consciousness Conversations Show with Carolyn, Lanier, Roberts, and Rocken, Larry, Locken. We're here every Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock, or excuse me, 11 o'clock Central Time, where Carolyn's at. And I believe that's, oh, that would be, let's see if good old Uncle Larry's math is right. That is 5 o'clock in the United Kingdom, and 6, 7, 8 wherever you are in Scandinavia, I suppose. And yeah, and on the East Coast it would be noon when we start. But thank you, and Carolyn, yes. Oh, yeah, I see the lovely Carolyn is back.
I'm
So
back. Had to
yeah,
bring the
so
dog in. She was hot.
3D life again, 3D life again. You did see that daydreaming. This dog had to come in. Yes, yeah. And I think too, like I used to live like not vicariously. I wasn't really like that, but I'd have all these alternate thoughts in my mind about a reality that I'm
Right.
in, a situation that was nothing real fancy or anything. Like I didn't dream that I was the goddamn king, that I was Lawrence of Arabia or anything. Although I must admit I've had that nickname before, Lawrence of Arabia, because my name's Larry, but my real name is not Lawrence. It's Larry on my birth certificate. But I would think about other realities that I was in. It was weird. Like, I had one for years that I thought about almost all the way through school. It was this other reality, and it was the same people in this fucking reality. They were people, a lot of them were people I knew, some of them weren't, though. And it was just a different set of circumstances, was all. I can't really take a whole show to go into it because I'd have to set the scene and all that. But it was a different environment I was in. Well, not really that different though. Kind of like almost now that it just hit me. Now I'm thinking that maybe I was just thinking about a parallel reality that I was in that was close to the one I was existing in.
Yeah, I was
That
getting that.
was that rampant. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I was just getting that when you were talking about that. Um, I will even offer, because, and I don't know if you could study this, but this is what I'm getting, is that the souls that allow themselves to daydream, I mean, they've done it since they're, or to let their imagination just go. They've
Yeah.
done this since they were children, and maybe they were told, you know, that what's the point of that, or that's worthless, or whatever. And that, my feeling is that's, well, that's not going to fly anymore. And you might have some adults that still say that, but that's not going to go into the next lifetime for damn sure. And that I would offer that those children who are now adults,
Hmm.
that if you did that when you were a child and you were chastised for it in any way, and you've still held yourself back as an adult, and you're listening to this podcast, maybe the reason
Hmm.
you were drawn to this is because there's significant validity to you allowing yourself to imagine, allowing yourself to have those daydreams and to create from what you receive, because it opens you up to so many other layers of what you are. And
Hmm.
yeah, that would be my biggest hope for this podcast, is that there's at least one soul that was shut down when they were a child by, and I'm not blaming the parents or society. I'm just saying it's the ignorance of what was presented then,
Hmm.
where we were as a consciousness, and that they are now going to give themselves space to be however they want to be in their own, within themselves, and however they want to imagine things, because that
Yeah,
fuels
right.
our world. It really does. People would be like,
Well,
well, how does that happen? Well, because we are energy before anything else. And we we have such profound effects on our reality. And I would offer that this is from the shift from the mind into the heart. And Larry, I'm going to just open this up because I always do this every podcast. Um, my mission is to be a reawakener of the conversation of the heart. And for me, that is the conversation between the sacred mind, sacred heart, body, vehicle, voice of the soul. And what I always receive is that it's not the mind that does everything. The mind is valued and respected beyond everything, but the the energy, the force that directs the mind has always been the heart. It's always been in the background. It just hasn't been recognized. And when you make that shift from the mind to the heart, then I receive that it's the sacred mind and it's the sacred heart, because that is the sacred flow. And so when we're talking about imagination and creativity and daydreaming and all of these things that expand you, when you allow those things to happen, you're allowing those things to happen because you are opening your heart and you are letting go of the reins. When you're imagining, you aren't holding on to reins of anything. You're just allowing your energy to flow. And I'm getting within me, you're allowing yourself to exist beyond your body, and you're extending your energy out, and you're extending it out as a loving force, because imagination, creativity, daydreaming, these are energies of expansion. And anytime we shift to anything that is expanding, it's recognizing divine flow, divinity, higher level, higher existence, loving
hmm,
existence. And all of these are profound. And so it's, yeah, just like it is, imagination is the key to the higher dimensions. It's all about this expansion. And so what I hope is that anybody listening, the takeaway to me for this podcast is if you're in one of these treadmills, if you're one of that group of the collective that is at a lower frequency, that you're in a difficult place, allow yourself to take a breath in any space you can for 5 minutes, and to allow your mind to wander and to allow your heart to expand for however
hmm.
long you can, because in that place of expansion, you shift your frequency.
Yeah,
And the higher
absolutely.
frequency is much more powerful than the lower frequency, because it's love. And
Yes.
as you do that, it it becomes infectious. Your being wants to be at that higher happy place, and your mind and the logic might negate, well, how can you be there when this and this and this is happening? And what I
Mm-hmm.
offer is, how can you not be there? Because that is
Right.
what changes this and this and this and this and this. Take this home to whoever's listening. If you feel any resonance with what I'm saying, take it home and use this as your secret weapon in your box that you're in right now. Take it and use it, because it all starts within you. It
Yes.
expands out from there.
Well, I think it goes back to into like what I was talking about in previous shows about quantum education and quantum learning about like seeing it like a like I know this lady Lynn Andrews is really good about doing this, creates these plasma things that blink in different colors and she'll put one word on there, right?
Oh,
And it
cool.
really provokes a thought. It's a 60-second, just a 60-second thing to stare into. You don't have to meditate for 5 hours and do telekinesis for 24 hours on the table, right? You can just stare into it, and I think that we need to encourage more of that. And you know, daydreaming is daydreaming to me is okay. We talk about a lot about you and I, Carolyn, have talked about these kids, this next generation coming up, the younger ones that were born in say even the late.
Yeah.
They're almost 30 now, and but especially the ones that came along after the turn of the century, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's they live in that kind of already existence almost. You know
They
what I mean?
do.
Yeah, and they still have to deal with our bullshit reality of it, but they're kind of tuned out to it. And I've met quite a few
Thank
souls
goodness.
that are like that, right? They're almost look, man. There's this kid called Truth Limitless Light. I really like on TikTok, and he just he's really chill and calm, and he puts it out there like it is, real quick. And I've talked to him a little bit, and it's almost with these kids, man. I feel like I'm talking to somebody from another fucking planet, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I
Cool.
feel like I'm
Yeah.
talking to them, like even they, I try to be humorous sometimes, and they get it, but they don't. They're almost like talking to the Arcturians or the Andromedans. They're really focused, steadfast, and key into what
Connected
they're.
is what I'm getting. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really connect. Well, you see it, but we talked about that last week about your dealings with these kids, but they're very connected, and to somebody who's not really up and hip to the game yet, which there are still people out there, it seems to them that these kids just have their heads in a computer all the time and they're not doing anything and they're lazy and
Yeah.
they don't want to do anything. And I mean, so everything negative, like it's kind of a more negative approach of I don't know what it was where I don't even want to try to dissect what the problem was when that frequency was so low and the energy was so dense back in the day, when we growing up and before that, where people would be like the first thought about everything was what was wrong with it, what was wrong with anything that's outside of the norm, what's
Right.
wrong with it, what's going
Right.
on, all that shit, right? Yeah, so it just I think that it's coming whether we like it or not. um Sometimes I wish I would have been born a little bit later. Sometimes I wish I was born earlier than when I was, but I guess I was born just at the right time for the right situation for the right purpose, right? I mean, I've been stuck
Right.
in the paradigm where I wish that shit I was born 10 years before I was so I could experience the 70s more. I've thought about it, but then I would have had to have even the bigger heartache of going into the 80s, except for when I was a kid. It was basically all I knew, except I felt like I'd been there before. But it's really wonderful to see, right? And we had a tendency just to look at everything that was wrong with anything outside of the box. Well, God, it must be. Well, they just can't explain it. What's wrong with them? Why are they doing this? And it was just don't do it. The answer was just don't do it. That was everybody's answer to
Right.
everything. Don't.
Right.
And I think these young kids see. It's not like they have to work to be that way. They are naturally that way. Like I said, talking to some of these young star seeds, it's like talking to somebody from another. They're old souls. They really
Yep.
most of them have never been here before. Some maybe one other time, and it was a billions of years, millions of years ago. They're just they're old souls, and they don't they don't thankfully they don't it's not that they don't understand it. They don't It's not part of their vocabulary. A lot of them, it's not a part of their mindset to
Mhm.
even think about this shit, right? They just kind
Right.
of look, go whatever, okay, yeah, cool, that's really really kind of odd, but
It's foreign
yeah,
to them. It's foreign,
terribly.
which is just so beautiful to me. It's
Oh,
foreign to them.
yeah, isn't it?
It's
Isn't it? It's
an
great.
unknown
Yeah.
frequency is what I'm hearing right now to them.
Oh yeah, it's some scratchy low station that they don't even want to fuck with trying to tune into, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
They don't even want to go there with it. So who could blame them? And really God love them for being able to do that. There as a mass consciousness, it's risen to where they don't have to really work at it or feel like they're alone or for being that way because most of them are just that way.
Yeah,
3/4 of them, right? 3/4 of them
I
are, and
know.
the ones that aren't, unfortunately, I think are hampered by really hard-headed a hard-headed home life where it's still kind of that mentality, right? But it takes, it takes a minute, right? It takes a minute to get through all this stuff. It takes a minute to overcome all these problems. When I say a minute, I mean it's generations, right? It
Right.
seems like a long goddamn time when you're looking at it from that perspective, but really it's not. We've come a long way. It wasn't
A
just
very long way.
yeah, we didn't go 2,000 years without nothing, then 100 years of boom, 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 boom. And even at that, because it was stifled, we could be another couple hundred years of where we're ahead of where we are now, had we like let this stuff, if we would have just got out of the way and let it happen. You know what I mean? If people could have, but we can't, I'm analytical and I go back and cry over spilled milk, but that's how amazing it is though when I look at it on the flip side, it's that
Right.
amazing because it's happened that quick. We can sit here and bitch that it could have happened. We could be even further, in which we could a hell of a lot further if we would have done just a few things different. A couple hundred years, in my opinion. But that's where we're at. Everything takes time, and it's all about learning that lesson here. But daydreaming and exploring that, totally quantum learning, quantum education. Um,
Totally.
yeah,
Yes. I
absolutely.
love it. Yes, we
I
could have
mean,
done that, but for whatever reason, yeah, I guess it's just me. I had to present it in the way that I was getting, but I mean,
yeah.
yeah, because it's the multidimensional reach. It's the truth, and it's awesome that for me, it's awesome that I'm coming into this awareness. I guess I'm there already. Like I live that way already, but to truly see its significance, like I'm getting really clearly within me, and the most difficult time in my life, the reason why I survived that was my imagination, was my creativity. Yeah, I'm getting that
Exactly.
very clearly. That's the reason why. And so for anybody listening, I'm speaking from my experience.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah. Right,
makes
right.
a huge difference because it doesn't matter what's happening, the bottom can drop out in your life. And if you just give yourself space and you allow yourself to imagine better, to allow
Mhm,
your heart to expand and be creative about
mhm,
anything, it shifts you off of whatever that is, and it opens you more. And in that place of openness, it allows you to get this different perspective on what you're addressing. It doesn't mean that that's going away, but it means that your way to approach it shifts. And then as you see something differently, it changes. And it's like this, it's again, I get it within me. It's a vital tool. It's a survival tool. It's massive.
It is. Well, wake up, sleepy Carolyn. Oh, what can it be to a daydream believer or a homecoming? We should have had that song for the introduction. We should have used that as a bumper, huh? Remember the monkey
Yeah,
song, Daydream Believer? Yeah, that would have been a daydream believer and homecoming queen.
daydream believer. Yeah, yeah,
I'd be,
absolutely.
cu- I'd be curious to put you on the spot and ask you. You got two very educated as hell parents. I mean, what did they ever? I mean, was it ever an issue with you and them about daydreaming or anything? And I'd be curious to know in that time. I mean, do you have any idea what they might have thought about it?
You really want to ask that, Larry?
Yeah,
Both my parents are PhDs to anybody listening.
yeah,
Well, my mom is, and my dad left this earth, but he was as well. Um, yeah, my mom is very cerebral. I love you, mom. Um, she would put it in a box because that's what mom does. My dad probably would have given it more validity, I'm sure.
right.
Um, yeah, but you got to think about the generation they're from. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
50 something, so they're like, they were more in a different place, right? That whole generation before us, and it goes back from there. But the beautiful thing is that, well, I'm hearing within me that shit doesn't fly anymore. Um,
No.
it, it's
It'd have been different had they come along another generation. Just got to thinking too. I knew another a couple that they were kind of, your parents were kind of in that kind of tweener generation between the World War II and the hippies, that kind of generation that was born between them two. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Almost they were born in that tweener generation right there, and that's kind of a rarity to run across. But yeah, it's kind of like, yeah. I mean, they had 3/4 of a foot stuck in the old curmudgeon world, maybe one in the kind of new world. But yeah, oh, totally did. We talked about how different it would have been had they come along about another generation later because of psychology and what they were
wow,
into, and shit was on the
wow,
precipice of really changing, right? I mean, you went to school for that, so you can probably attest it. They were kind of in that last generation before shit really started to come up with the new age and the '70s kind
yeah.
of philosophies, and in the '80s, and
They were they
music.
were more in the because my mom, well, my mom was a psychologist, teaching it in college, and my dad was for a brief time, couple years in a private college, and yeah, they were more about the Sigmund Freud. Well,
Yeah,
my mom definitely was more than my dad, but my dad, yeah, but my mom also liked to get into Jungian philosophy, which is where a lot of people go now, actually. And so
yeah.
it's kind of like both. That's that '70s one that you're thinking of, Larry. Is
Did
is
they get
my
into
mom in
Carl
that
Jung
space?
at all? They get into Carl Jung at all, or anything like that? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. Well, that's
yeah,
okay. Huh.
yeah. I forget that sometimes, but yeah, my mom, when she was younger, was much more connected to that. Maybe it's more integrated
Okay.
now. But
Yeah, she
but
was just smart for her era. She knew that wasn't the way to go. She knew to get along with to get where she had to go. I mean, that stuff was probably good on a side note to read then, but I mean that was cutting edge shit back then. You know what I mean? Carl
The
Jung was
young,
pretty
yeah,
controversial.
Carl Jung's, yeah, yeah, but she also was very connected to, like, the Pablo and the dogs,
Yeah,
and the Sigmund
yeah.
Freud and the more fundamental
Mm-hmm.
thinking of things, and
Sounds very
yeah,
methodical.
very, oh,
Is she
yes.
addicted to that in the dictionary? Carolyn's most methodical in the dictionary. Is that her picture there? Yeah. Yeah, cerebral
No
and very
comment.
thought out, and probably not the woman you'd want to try to match
My
wits with if you had to do it. Yeah.
my mom's a Virgo, so that should help.
Oh God, I know. They're right after Lee. Yeah, yeah, that really. I'm not going to go into that. Kind of tells it all, and I'll leave it. There you have it, Cosmic Sports fans.
And I love her
Yeah,
so
So,
much.
so, so for them, so they were not. Do you think they were even aware of like Edgar Casey? On a side note,
Oh, when I was young, well, I would offer I've always been connected.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Did they know?
uh,
Did they? I was wondering if they knew who he was.
Casey. Ooh, okay, let me think.
Probably not. Probably not so much. They probably heard of him, I'm sure, but he was probably way far out there for that. I mean, but or a lot of those, like okay, there was this guy from Italy, Salvatore Dali, who was really kind of,
Salvador Dali. We
you
actually,
know,
well, we had, oh, I feel bad about this because I have a degree in art education. It's The Persistence of Time. Was that Dali?
hmm
That might have been Dali. We had a copy of that
hmm
above the stairs
yeah.
going downstairs when I was a kid, and I
I saw
remember
Mike
that.
Wallace interview him. Saw Mike Wallace in the '60s before he did 60 Minutes. He interviewed Salvatore Dali. It was a really good interview. It's out there on YouTube.
Wow.
But
So I
I
mean,
just say this. Hi, Mom, to Carolyn's mom, if she's ever sees this in the future. Hi, Mom, I love you. I really respect you. Yeah, I do. I do really. I don't want to get on her bad side, but I mean, yeah. Anyway, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. I'm that guy
it
that
was
turned that book.
different.
I'm that guy that turned that book report in that looked like I copied the back of it where it gives a synopsis. On the
But
back. That's why.
I didn't find out until, like, I was, I don't know, like 12 or something. We were at my mom's childhood home in Atlanta, and we were up in the attic, and she had a sister, Louise, who died of MS
Mm-hmm.
when I was a teenager. Actually, she died. My mom was taking care of her, and Yeah, I remember we were going through like her trunk and stuff, and I know I feel within me she's listening. She's part of this. She's aware of this conversation,
I get
and
it too. I'm feeling it. Hi, Mom. I'll turn that book report. I'll get that report to you soon. Yeah,
and
yeah.
so Louise had tarot cards in her trunk. They were they were old, right? Because you're going back to like, the 50s and stuff. But
Right.
and that was I knew about them from, I don't know what, the newspaper or whatever, but I remember seeing them, and it was like this ding 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 within me, because
Yeah.
I would have never gotten something like that from my mom, but to see that her sister had those,
Probably where you got it
wow.
from. Probably where you got your consciousness from. So that stuff's hereditary. Probably. Did you ever eat it? So you didn't get to meet her ever, though, right? Did you ever meet her? Did she pass before you were around? Did you meet her?
Yes, I met Louise. Did I meet Louise? Yes, yes. Well, I no, no, I did meet Louise, and the thing is, the question actually would be more: did you meet Louise before the MS really took over
Oh,
her
okay.
body?
Gotcha.
And I met her somewhat. I actually look like her. Like, I'm the only one in my family who's got blonde hair, blue eyes.
Makes
That's
sense. Yeah.
Louise. Um, yeah, and the only other thing I heard about her was from my mom, that she had a lot of, my mom's age, right? Beaux, guys that wanted to date her and everything. But you're going back to the 50s, where there was a lot more straight laced stuff.
No,
Basically, I,
God.
I
Yeah,
know
I
that
know.
she was a waitress, but she died. Louise, when did you die, Louise?
Oh, yeah.
Because MS, there's a lot more knowledge about MS now, but
Oh,
it
it's
was
terrible.
it
Then it would have been nasty to have it. Then can you imagine having it back when she had it? Poor lady, poor thing. I mean, really, man, really. God
she was
damn.
she but I will say, because we're bringing it up, I will say I helped my mom care for Louise, because when Louise got MS, we lived in Charlotte, that's my hometown, and we
Yeah.
brought mom brought Louise from Charlotte, and I helped my mom take care of her until she passed. But I mean, here I am, this 13-year-old, helping my mom take care of her sister. And then at one point, her mom, because her mom had Alzheimer's or contracted it, and my mom brought her mom, Bertha, from
Yeah.
Atlanta to Charlotte. And so at one point in my house, my mom was taking care of her sister and her mom, and I was helping her take care of them. And yeah, part of my childhood. It's probably part of why I am who I am. But Louise,
Uh, okay.
it was interesting learning that she had tarot cards, which is like, you're
Oh
kidding
man,
me.
God, are you kidding? I'm surprised she wasn't given a scarlet letter for having those in those days, man. I mean, they didn't even invent. Like I told you about my old working mate Carl in a private conversation one time. That he claimed they didn't even invent sex till the 1960s. But and another, no, but we digress. I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can imagine. Did you get? And that you spawn all kinds of things to me. So yeah, you talked about moving from Atlanta to Charlotte. You're not the only. There must have been a migration of people at some point that moved from Atlanta, Georgia, to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Maybe.
There's definitely, yeah, maybe, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I know. I don't remember Atlanta except for when we visited it after we'd moved to Charlotte, because I was only 6 months old.
Mm,
But I mean, Atlanta's a big city, and
okay,
my
yeah.
mom's childhood home is down the street from Emory, which is now essentially it's downtown, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
off of a street called Peachtree, and it's one of these Atlanta houses that, they're stone. They're beautiful
Well,
stone
still,
houses.
I'd love to go see them someday. It's one of my bucket lists to go see those homes in Atlanta like that, right? The old,
Yeah,
yeah.
to me, there's always been something magical about that home, because from
Mm-hmm.
the front it looks small, but when you're in
Mm-hmm.
it, because it's on a hill, you're like, whoa, it's a big place.
Yeah, I'd like to go down there. I mean, especially now because I got a passport. Like a couple of years ago, I got my passport, so I can go down into the Confederacy. So it'll be okay for me to go down south just to see. I can go to the Confederacy and see what's going on down south. But
And it's because you're there in the northwest, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
and we hate the
and
rest of the time.
the more I'm hearing about it, and the more I'm getting, it is a different frequency there than here. And
Big
I'm
time.
So I'm from the South, right? And some people say Texas
Okay.
is South. Yeah, Texas is South, but I'm like
Not really,
from
just so
the South.
integrated. Not, you know what? This is my thing is I've never been to Texas. My kids have, but I mean, it's so integrated now with North, especially when you're around a big city. I mean, it's my understanding that man, I mean, the people I hear out of Dallas now, I talk to or Houston, they don't even sound, they don't have that. And Texas never really had a full fledged Southern drawl. It was just kind of their own little Texan,
Yeah.
flavor of it. It seems like it's fading down there, and I mean, I'd be curious to see by the turn of the next century how many people really sound like they're even have a southern drawl that live in Texas. But I digress on that. I mean, it just seems to me that yeah, the Pacific Northwest. You get about up to the last northern third of California, not the bottom two thirds. That last northern third, where Shasta and the redwoods are. You go up to Oregon, Washington, and British Columbia, that first province. Yeah, we hate the rest of the continent, by the way, but we love you, though, Carolyn. But we, but I mean, it's a different. And I've had people from enlightened people that have come here and be like, "Man, the veil's thinner up here. This isn't like the rest of the U.S. It's more like almost a Scandinavian vibe in a way." You
Wow.
know, yeah, it's different. It's even our what I say, even our rednecks are kind of enlightened. It's different, right? It's not yeah, it is, and I mean, I hate to say that, but I mean, and I could just be a homer, but I mean, I would offer that there's some validity to what I'm saying because I've heard this from
Yeah.
people that have been here, and so it's not just that I'm oh yeah, your place sucks because I'd love to see your place. I'd love to go down south, and of course I don't want any fucking iced tea because I can't stand iced tea for one. I can't. I've tried to drink it. This shit is gross. I hate it. I hate Dr.
The
Pepper. I hate
iced
iced
tea
tea,
is
and I hate the
sweet.
Mountain Dew. Get rid of the Mountain Dew, the Dr. Pepper, and the iced tea. And the one thing I can't stand is, Carolyn. Did you ever have to suffer on a side note through a can of Tab? You remember the worst pop ever created in the world, but people buy it. I've never met anybody that
Tab.
liked it.
Yeah,
Never met
no,
anybody that
Diet
liked it.
Coke's worse than Tab.
Is it really? You think so?
I
Okay.
remember Tab
God damn. Whoa, man,
or
dude, that
or
was like double.
RC. Tab,
Uh,
RC. Um,
yeah, but man,
yep.
tab and bubblegum ice cream, with a bad hangover, putting bubblegum ice cream in a tab. Yeah, yeah. I mean, really though, it just but the frequency, daydreaming, quit daydreaming, pay attention. But the thing is, too, is
Yeah.
we didn't exactly offer conditions that were conducive to quit daydreaming. I mean, it was the same kind of mundane. What I don't get is sometimes it helps to change the scenery. You can be teaching the same.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Oh boy. We lost Larry. Larry, are you there? Okay. I guess he's going to jump back on. We're talking about imagination, daydreaming, and creativity, and how incredibly vital this is for now to give yourself space and peace within your own body, regardless of what's happening external from you, so that you can step out into whatever your next creation is. Doesn't mean it's happening right then, but nothing's going to happen unless you first imagine it, unless you first put energy into it, and that brings it forward in divine timing. And then there is obviously the last step, which is the physical step, but none of it begins until you first imagine it, until you first allow the desire of it, you first imagine it, you first daydream it, and you create it within yourself. Have we lost Larry? This is just me. Let me see.
Hello, Carolyn. Carolyn, I
He's
went away. I'm here. Carolyn, it's like
back.
that vision I had. I know. I'm going to interrupt Carolyn. I fell in a pit. Carolyn, Carolyn, yeah, whatever Carolyn was saying, forget about that. Here I am. Hey, everybody. Look, I went away. I went away, but I'm back. I left my home in Tucson, Arizona for some California grass. So I'm getting back now, but it wasn't kind of the grass I walked on, but that was a mistake.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that. At one point, I was like, okay, Larry's gone.
I'm
Welcome
circling.
back.
Remember that vision I told you about the other day, yesterday, about that those two mocking us. The Marilyn and Gary show. Yeah, but um, daydreaming, to me, is almost as fundamental as breathing. I mean, is there anything when we
Yeah.
really break it down that we don't do that isn't daydreaming? Jesus Christ, any thought that you have, unless you're completely spaced out on whatever and entrenched what you're looking at the time, which is not a bad thing necessarily either, because it helps your concentration. Have an extra thought. Oh, quit daydreaming. You know, yeah, forget about all that shit. Though daydreaming is positive. It inspires creativity. And I just think it's amazing to if we let children explore that, like give them here. Here's your only homework. Like here's a pen, here's some crayons, whatever. When they're
Yeah.
younger, draw what the hell you're thinking about. Here, why don't you do me a favor? You know, you
Yeah.
Susie or Joey, why don't you draw? Just go ahead and we're gonna do this stuff and draw what you're thinking about. You know, something simple like that. Draw it. You know.
Yeah. I'm getting within me it very clearly. I've never thought about it like that. It makes sense. It allows them to, I'm getting their create and align their own personal, like their own reality, their own, the way they want to do it within themselves, before outside restrictions are placed on them, is what I'm hearing. And
Hmm.
obviously when they're children, there has to be a degree of that because they're children, but for safety reasons. But it's also important, or just as important, for them to be allowed to create within themselves. Um, it's vital that they can do that, and I really have run into some students before who, yeah, they don't know what to do with a piece of paper and a pencil to draw.
Hmm.
They want the laptop in front of them, and I've
Well,
tried.
yeah. Yeah,
I've
I
tried.
didn't necessarily get rid of that method of doing it. Maybe we could have them do it on a laptop. I don't want to come. I honestly, I don't want to come across, Carolyn. I don't want to come across like I'm saying, okay, we got to do it the old way with crayons and a pen. I'm not trying to get fundamental. So maybe they got to draw it on a computer, right? That they have in front of them, a laptop or a tablet. Because I'm not. You know, you may disagree with me on this, but I'm not the one to. I'm not the one that is insistent that they. I know I said it that way, but I'm not insistent it has to be on crayon or
No, no,
I'm just
no.
just an
Yeah,
old
I hear you.
motherfucker.
No, no. What I'm saying is these are students that it's not even about creating on the laptop. It's like
Right.
some of the ones I've known, they have to be there's in those structured programs. Even if it's a game, it's like this structured space,
Mhm.
and you know it, they don't know how to
So
create
they're
outside.
caught up. They're a product of maybe the little tiny bit of the yang of it is they're caught up and they have to feel like they have to be structured in what they've okay. So this is really a mentality issue. Is that kind of what you're getting at almost? You know, it's kind of a
Yeah, I was
mentality
kind of
issue.
shocked. I was a little. I've run into it. And it's not all students. There's some students, they're good to go with a piece of paper, or they're good to go with like the pad thing, electronic. That's fine. It just shocks me when I see a child and they have to have the structure on the computer of the game, of the, and I appreciate the game. I
Hmm.
would just offer that.
Yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game.
No,
No, I
and
don't hate the.
it's like no, but it's also, I'm what I'm getting is like on a screen. And although I will have to say flat out, I will say this, that like the heart, the energy is conveyed through the hand, right? It comes down here, it comes through the hand. That's why like the drawing, the art, the gymnastics, the whatever, it's in the physical body. When it's on the screen on the computer, is it there? Yes, but there still has to be space on the screen to have no walls, is what I'm hearing within me. And so it's not about the games, though I respect the games. It's not about the games. It's about,
Hmm.
maybe they could have, and they could just do this on the screen, or they could, and that's fine. It's still not the same to me as having a piece of paper in front of you and having physical ability to connect to it. But it's still, I'm talking about some students I've known that they don't have that capacity, or they haven't connected with that capacity within them. And these were
Yeah,
like
wow, yeah, that's
middle
fucking
schoolers.
crazy.
These were like, and I was, because it's vital. And I've tried to express to the students, and I'm a part-time substitute teacher. I'm not in that space all the time, you know. If I
Mm-hmm.
was, I still think I would do it this way though. But you know, my approach has always been, um, I learned the rules. I learned the rules of, you know, yeah, I got the rules of the company I work for. I got the rules of the school, and then I got the rules of the teacher. And
Oh,
within
you're
all those
awesome.
rules, I'm always
Yeah.
seeking the freedom. What is the freedom for the student that I can give them? Because to me, they don't learn about themselves in those rules. Those are important. Those are structure around them, but they won't learn about themselves in those rules. They learn about themselves outside of those rules. That's just me. Others might disagree. That's fine. But to
No,
me, there has to be a place where they have free expression to be in there and to be free to express themselves within a place of balance is what I'm getting. And I have run into some kids who they they don't know how to express themselves. It's like they're on the laptop, or they need the book in front of them, or they it's been interesting, the paradigm shift that I've met sometimes when I've even offered some classes, um, you know, when they've done their work, what they could do in the free time rather than going to this next work is giving them the breathing bubble, which yes, teachers do that, but it's like, you know, take a piece of scrap paper and draw on it, you know, or grab a book. This is if they didn't have laptops. And,
mm-hmm.
you know, some students would like jump at the jump at it, chomping at the bit to doodle and to draw and others would be like they're going to open the book. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
giving them that freedom again, their free expression of themselves. And this connects with the creativity because it's like with the book they can pick what do they want to read, what kind of world do they want to go into. And oh, I'm getting this connection within myself too about reading and creativity. Oh, that's interesting. Yes. Yeah, because when you read, you know, you're imagining all of these things as you're reading those words, and it's expanding your imagination. Very cool. I hadn't thought about that. I mean, it does, but um it's just I'm hoping that more and more teachers find that freedom, find that space to allow the students to create more in their very structured schools, in the very structured,
What a
very
tap!
structured
Yeah, I can imagine
classes.
what I was just sitting here thinking. I can imagine, and you know this well. Well, I'm sure I can imagine what a tap dance it is, right? Between what the structure sets and the and it's a structure, right? And there's only so much you can really do, but yet you really got to get creative yourself, right? Probably I would imagine to allow them to have as much freedom as yeah, you're limited. You're limited because there's still that old standard in place. There's still that old structure in place where it's just okay. This is how it is. Let's just do it like this, and let's
Yeah,
structure it like this. And I think it would be great to put a pen or a pencil or some paintbrush in their hand and let them just doodle or draw and come up with
yeah,
it. Some kids are they've been so conditioned to just live in a laptop because maybe those kids seem to me it seems to me when you describe that they're like those are the ones really trying to escape a reality that are maybe there's something going on
yeah,
at home. There's something going at home, or it's the way they've been neglected or ignored, and they feel like they've really just because they're of the technical age too. They've really just like sunken themselves into it, and so they
yeah,
are the ones that are kind of using it for an escape still. So as we move forward, it's three steps forward, sometimes one step back. We've got well, it's not really a step back because the back would have been a hell of a lot worse than even this. So I mean, I can't really even say that. So
right.
but yeah, right. So it just seems like there are those cases, right? And then it just I hate to say this, and I really do, but I hate to say it and just chalk it up to okay, they're just casualties of this awakening, right? Because they're not. But
Oh,
I mean that kind of stuff is going to happen, right? I mean, but because this old shit is so foreign to them. I mean, my middle son went on a field trip, him and his best friend, when they were like 12 years old, and they came home and said that they saw a rotary phone at the museum, and I said, yeah, I was telling them about having one in our. We had this old, we had a modern ship, but we had an old rotary phone out in the kitchen by the refrigerator that was all had always been there,
Yeah.
I would, you know, they would. I said, did I ask them how if they knew how to use? They said they admitted they wouldn't know in an emergency how to hear it. And then it wasn't 2 days later. My son called the radio station or some shit, and he kept trying to get through, and he freaked out. And he said, "Dad, listen to this. Oh my God, listen! What the hell is this?" And I got on the phone, and it was a fucking busy signal. He had never heard a busy signal in his life. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even joking. Kyron, I'm gonna rat him in my movie. The dad, what the hell's going on? What's his dad got? And I got jarred for a second.
I'm not
I'm like,
laughing at your son. I'm just, you came
I
out of the
know.
blue with that
I
one.
laugh at him all the time for it. Still, I mean, I got on the phone. I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? Give me that phone." And I listened, and it was a busy. I was waiting to hear some weird shit, and it was a busy signal. I'm like, I didn't know whether to laugh at him, love him, kill him, shoot him. I didn't know what. I was like, "What the hell?"
What's the paradigm shift right there? That one is,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and it
Well,
wasn't 2 days before they had seen that goddamn. We were talking about rotary phones, and they'd actually saw one at the museum on a field trip. And I'm like, "Did you guys know?" I'm like, would you know how to use one in an emergency? No. And I said, I told his best friend of lifetime. I looked at him. I said, Jacob. I said, try being a fucking in an argument with one of your girlfriends and trying to call him back a million times with one of those rotary phones. See how you like it. You don't keep dialing. You know what I mean? Can you get pissed off trying to get through? Can you imagine, Carolyn? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I said, hey man, try calling that. See how your finger feels after a while. Dude, it's got all the way around again. And dude, if you mess it up on that last number, guess what, bro? He said, what? You're
you're
hanging up
screwed.
and calling it again. Yeah, you're gonna have to
Yep.
call it again. I said it was like that, man. I don't, I know. And then and I said,
Yeah.
and then without my son around, I looked at him because he was kind of cool. I said, "Hey, try doing it on LSD sometime." No, I'm just kidding. With the swirl going around with the, tracers coming off of it. But
My mom
I,
had a rotary phone in her childhood home. I remember it was a black phone in in the wall in the hallway. I remember that. Yeah. So I remember those. You know
yeah,
what? Actually, did we have a rotary phone when I was a kid? Maybe is that the one that had the cord that went forever because you certainly couldn't do anything wireless.
yeah. Well, it was where you had to
Yeah.
dial yeah. Well, the rotary was where you had to dial that thing in circles. They still had payphones like that, kind of in the
Right.
'70s, where you had to
Right.
go around, right? Yeah. And then the first cordless phone or the first
And you
dial-up
could make
phone.
a call for a dime. Yeah, that's right. I
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah, right, exactly. And until the late '80s, I'm not kidding you. This is how backward some of Oregon was. My aunt still had party line where you'd pick up the phone and people would talk. You ever heard of party line where people share a line in a neighborhood?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember
man,
that.
people would get in and listening on your phone call. Oh yeah, what's going on? What are you gonna have for dinner tonight? Oh yeah, yo. And sometimes you get a juicy conversation about somebody's date, and then sometimes, dude, I'd listen in sometimes when I was over there, and then sometimes I'd hear some shit I didn't want to hear. I was sorry that I did. I was really, but you get what
Yeah.
you give, don't you? Yeah, I mean, hey, man, you play with fire, you're gonna get burned sometimes. I mean, dude, I heard, I won't get into it, but I heard some shit that would change my perception about people that I knew in the neighborhood forever, and I wasn't supposed to hear it because it was personal. Yeah, really, dude, straight up, man. I mean, well, I'm not, I might tell Eric what he did, but I might tell the old man. I'm gonna tell the easy, but I ain't gonna tell you about what I heard. But I mean, really, really though, this.
And how old were you when that happened?
Oh, probably okay. So probably this was up until I was about okay, even 11 years, 12 years old, right? But I was pretty hip for my age. Probably like 12 the last time I heard one. And we're talking the late 19 fucking, or we're talking the mid 1980s here. Really though, she
Wow.
still had it, and she just didn't change, and she finally changed it over, and but this one sweet lady lived in the neighborhood, and I really loved it. But she was talking about a date she went on, and dude, and I never looked at her the same again because when you're a kid, you have a perception of people, right? It's like when you're younger. And Mr. Rogers pointed to this one time too about how it's weird for a kid, a little small kid, to actually see their teacher at the grocery store or something because they put them on a pedestal like they're, oh my god, my
Right.
teacher's grocery shopping. It's from and I thought that way
Yep.
too a little bit. Like, man, my God, really? They're at the grocery store. I thought they flew them in to teach every day or some shit. It was a total different world back then, man. I
Right.
mean, it was totally different. People were built up to be more than they were, and so that
Right.
it created this dichotomy where you put people on a pedestal, and so then in tune they knew it, felt the vibe from it, and so they felt like they had to live up to that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. 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 I'm remembering that.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
so
they still do that. Honestly, it depends on
yeah.
the school and it depends on the age, right? I mean, but you have to with the young ones to an extent, like the kindergartners and the pre-K, um, because they're so young. They need that solid role model of the teacher. They yes, you know,
Well, have
the
you ever
older
ran into
ones.
one of them? Have you ever been in such? Have you ever ran into a student you've taught before in town ever that you remember? I mean, you live kind of out in the suburbs, but you have. Okay, you're shaking your head like you don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about it on
Yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. No, I have, and yeah, I recognize. I was in a Goodwill, and you guys have Goodwills over there.
Yes.
Um,
Time. Yep.
I was in a Goodwill, and I was, just shopping, and I looked, and I saw a student, and I was like, "This was what grade was that? Third, fourth grade," and I was like, "Oh, I recognize that," and I said hi to the student, and sometimes they say hi to me, and sometimes they don't want to say hi to me, and this one was kind of like they were with their parent right there, I think the mom, and they didn't give me the time of day, and it's okay. I'm a substitute. I came in there, and this was when I think I was in the class for a couple days. Um, but their students are different, just like adults, right? And so, yeah, it just depends on the students, because some students would be like, oh, Miss Roberts, hi, blah 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 blah, and I got that too, which is really actually pretty awesome. I think anybody that's
Yes.
taught, you love it when the students say that, and they're like, they remember
Sure.
you, and you're like, I must have done a good job. They remember me rather than me like, oh, Miss Roberts, oh, so
You
yeah.
avoid you like the plague, right? I bet. Have you? This is a curious question. Have you ever thought any of them were avoiding you like the plague? Like they kept
Well,
the
out
eyes.
and I don't see them often
Right.
out and about, so
Right. No. No. No.
no.
No.
But in the school, like if I've subbed in one of the classrooms, and
Yeah.
especially the older ones is what I'm getting. Like if I've subbed in 11th grade or ninth grade classroom, and they see me in the school, because I'm subbing for a first graders or second graders, and they're like, you think they'd say hi, but that they don't have to, and they
No, I
don't.
know.
They
So
just
some things never
they're
change.
kind
I
of like,
see.
they look that direction. They're like,
Some
oh,
things are
that's that
innate within
teacher
us.
that was,
Yeah,
and
some
that's
things
okay.
never change, do they? Some of these traits are innate within us. We can't get rid of. Yeah, exactly. I feel it. I can't explain it, but I get what you're saying totally. Oh, because I've been there. Like, oh, well, there. Yeah, I have before, and But then
Yeah,
again, man, I mean, I've got high with one of my former teachers. So I mean, it's really surreal when you see them in a environment that's not, because you put teachers
yep,
on a pedestal out of respect, but it's like a forced respect. People need to know that they're more human. Please, people, believe me, I'm not advocating going and get high with one of your teachers or whatever. But I've been out
yep.
before with the guys before when I was younger and we ran into a teacher that we used to have at the high school who we all couldn't stand, and the guy bought us a round of fucking drinks. You know what I mean? So they're humans too. You get to see that human side to them. You know what I mean?
It's
Yeah,
it. I mean, just me being me with my students. And this is off topic to me, but it depends on the age group. I'm real with them as much as I can be. First graders, it's a different conversation than you're going to have with like fifth graders or ninth graders,
perfect.
or But
You're
I
multidimensional. You let it dictate to you whatever you're dealing with at the time. You let that frequency of who
I
you're
do
keeping the
completely.
frequency keeper.
Yeah,
You're letting
I
it
had a
dictate.
group of Monday, 6 boys. What grade was that? Third. Oh shoot. Oh, what grade was that? Fourth grade, fifth grade, and it was a small class. But the reason why it was a small class is
Yeah.
because every child in that class, certainly four, had ADHD
Oh God.
or ADD, and
Okay.
and two of the four, it was like severe, and then the other two were like neither one could read,
Oh man. Okay.
And no, they're intelligent kids, but neither one could read,
Yeah.
and they were very I don't know that they were more social than somebody who's autistic or something, but
Right.
they were, you know, I had to get creative to reach them, which my background is what 15 years working with special needs, right? So
Yeah.
it was a different energy though, and I honestly like, you know, a different life. I could easily be a teacher for that kind of classroom because I
Mhm.
would enjoy pushing beyond the boundaries to communicate with those kids. And but I was subbing for a teacher who was a great teacher, and I followed the lesson plan as well as I could. uh, she'd been out for like a week, and so the other teachers around were trying to kind of piece things together to help me figure out what to teach these kids. And
Mhm.
I just found it really neat that when I gave them a brain break, that they did awesome on the brain break. Yes, hi, I'm back. Um, yeah,
Oh,
they
you.
did. They handled themselves awesomely when they were bouncing off the walls when you had to get their focus for talking about history or math or whatever. But when they went
Mhm.
on the brain break, you know, they behaved well. They were even the ones that had ADD or ADHD. They because they were allowed to like listen to their videos, or they were allowed to, and it was kind of neat because to me the kids did great. And um I tried to give them as many breaks as I could within reason.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and
Tap dancing on
it,
that line, man.
it was neat too because the cool thing to me about these kids, and maybe you could say it with those adults too, is imagination, creativity. Yeah,
Yeah.
they got that in spades. They're
Right.
already there. That's why they've got the imagination. I mean, that's why they've to me. I suggest, from what my observation, that's the reason they're diagnosed as ADD, ADHD, because they're already
Exactly.
in that space of incredible imagination and wide open creativity, and they're in a system. This is a children and adults who have had to kind of learn how to box it in and to pull it in, and
Yeah,
that's
that's their part of paving the way too. That's
it
their part of being a
really is.
pioneer. Yeah, paving their
They're
way for the next
amazing.
that won't have to maybe deal with it as much, and then they want as much, and they want as much. Yeah, really, it's fascinating. You know what I mean? That's their kind of paradigm as far as they're kind of paving the way for the next, so that it really is going to require a complete overhaul to the education system, and that's something we
Completely.
can get on another topic about. I don't believe in school vouchers, and there's a reason why. I'm not opposed to people having a choice, understand, but I believe our focus should be on the community as a public, and I mean, we should be working on that as in our school system, not giving all these kids all these alternate choices where they can go somewhere and just be taught what these people think they need to be taught, because that's not the answer. You know what I mean? That's not the answer to do that, right? I mean, it is. I believe in people being able the freedom to do it, but we need, as a consciousness, get together and learn how we can teach the masses as a whole, and not get separated off in these other dogmas. But I got a lot to say about it. We can do that another time.
You do, and
Um,
I do too. I completely. My biggest thing would be to shorten the school day because it's just
yeah,
too damn long, and
exactly.
get the teachers off the treadmills of the schedules that they have, and some teachers might argue with that, but it's to me. I i uh I, I tell my love when I'm going to substitute that day. I'm like, okay, and you've already seen me. I think I've texted you before. I got to get on the Ferris wheel. I got to get on the carousel. Um, you
Yeah.
know, well, yeah,
Yep.
because it's like 30 minutes for this class and 45 minutes here and an hour maybe here, and then you're back into the 30 minutes here, and it's I just I I I just
Yeah.
don't think it's a healthy flow. I really don't. I
It's
feel
a real
like it's
lazy way. It's a real from the people above you. It's a real lazy way of
I feel like it's
administering.
a rat in a maze, and
Yeah.
it's like you're going down this way, and then you got to make a turn here, and you get, and it's oh. it irritates the crap out of me. I gotta be honest, and
Well,
I'm
right.
speaking from who I am because it's so unnatural. It's
Well, don't worry about anybody. Yeah, we could only don't worry because we could only dream that anybody who had any influence over you as far as teaching would be listening to this. They're not. They won't find this if fucking they wouldn't find this in a if it hit them on the head.
And then Larry, I saw the time, and I know when you
Yeah.
come up
Yep.
against that 2 hour thing. So I guess we got to wrap it up, right? Because I know
What?
the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Because we'll tackle. Yeah, we'll definitely tackle that another time because
Yeah,
I've got a lot to say
yeah.
on that, and I know you do
We
too. And
definitely could.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll make Carolyn Carolyn, the school board's gonna see this. No, I'm just kidding. We could only dream. But yeah, yeah, exactly. Go ahead and Carolyn, why don't you tell the wonderful people out there where in the
Yeah.
wonderful world of social media they might be able to find Carolyn Lanier Roberts if they so chose.
Hi. Okay. So I'm allowing the light on Instagram, and I'm allowing the light on Facebook. I'm also, just like he said, Carolyn Lanier Roberts on Facebook, and I'm very constant there. I offer soul sessions where I work with the conversation of the heart, and work with you to connect with that
Reawaken.
within yourself and to bring it forward so that it is the guiding force in your life, and to pull away from used to be ways of thinking, and to pull away from the box, and to open you up in your own experience, and to help you expand you, honestly. And you can see more stuff on my page, Allowing the Light, but you can also check out the other ways I express myself. I am an artist, writer, and teacher of the heart, and
A reawakener of the conversation, don't forget.
totally a reawakener of the conversation, which is always present. It's just we have collectively forgotten until like this lifetime, honestly. Thank you, God. And I'm trying to think what else. And I'm grateful for your attention. On YouTube, I am Allowing the Light. I think if they put in Allowing the Light, they'll find me, right? Or
Yeah, I know there's the underscore thing with one of them, but yeah, allowing the light and her. Yeah,
Allowing the
exactly.
Light. And then there's a Carolyn Lanier Roberts one as well. Yeah, and I think that's it. Oh, I have an Etsy store. On my Etsy store, I sell my light language infused blessing picks, um, which you can see on any of those other sites. And I'm grateful for your time and attention. And I really hope that this podcast serves whoever was called to that, and whatever will serve your highest good. And thank you, and blessings.
Yeah. So real quick, Carolyn, can you look at the because I cut out how much time does it say on your how many time how long have we been going? Does it tell you
Six
how long does?
minutes and 49 seconds.
Well, that's because you cut out. It says oh that's how much time I've got till 2 hours. Is that what you're saying?
No, I really think we've got less than 5 minutes, is my gut
Okay,
feeling right now.
then here I go. I'm going to go real quick. Then okay, this has been your host with the most, Rocken Larry Locken, giving you all the toast. The host with the most from coast to coast, giving up all the toast, giving you coolness, hotness, everything you could possibly want in this. Yeah, anyway, you can find me on Rockin' Larry Locken social media outlets on Facebook. Listen, that page is strictly the projects I'm involved with. This show and wherever you might find me in the wonderful world of social media, which is too many goddamn places as far as I'm concerned. But hey, I'm a modern guy, so I roll with it. Okay, I'm on everything. I'll just say this: I'm on everything but like SoundCloud and LinkedIn. Okay, I'm sure I'll get there one day, but I don't sing very good as Carol. Carolyn can, if you really don't, if you really think I do sing good, why don't message Carolyn privately and she'll tell you how good I am at it. But so I'm not on SoundCloud, but everything else you can find me. And usually what you'll do is you'll find me at Larry Locken channel is my channel, my channel name, but then there's of course a screen interface. So, like for instance, on Lemon 8, I am the Lemon 80 Pleiadian with Lemon and then the number 8, IAN, all in one letter, word Lemon 80 Pleiadian. Okay, and on Blue Sky, you can find me at Blue Pleiadian Blue Orbs. But other than that, I'm the Larry Locken channel, no matter where you're at, either it's spaced out or it's all together as one word, okay? I love hearing myself talk and I love hearing my name constantly being said. You never have to be worried when you're talking to me about saying my name because I love to hear it. So everything's okay. and I love compliments. Anything you could possibly say about me that's good or do for my benefit, I'm in love with. So I really love that kind of thing. And yeah, any kind of positive things you could say. And Carolyn is really wonderful. We really balance each other out, and it's really wonderful. So you can find me there. Also, you could just type in the Larry Locken Network. I have a secondary name for the page, which most people don't know. You can have two names for your page. And this is not something I figured out because I'm a genius. It's because of trial and error. All right, there's things I know. If you can find me on Facebook mainly because seriously, I know people got complaints about Facebook, but when you're doing what Carolyn and I do, it's really and I've talked to some of the other people too. It's really still the best game in town because of what you can do on there, right? I mean, for the reasons that Carolyn and I use it mostly. So you can find me on there, but you can find me also on everywhere else. And with that being said, we really appreciate you tuning in. I love each and every one of you. I know I can be bombastic at times, but that's just who I am, and that's just what I am in it. But I mean, if you think that there's something I need to alter or change, I will take it under consideration. I really do and will. Okay, I mean, so I appreciate any constructive criticism. It's all good, and I'll take it under advisement. Um, and with that being said, we're going to see you next week. If you have any, I just want to say too that like if you have any ideas for any subject matters that you want us to touch
Yeah,
on,
I like that too. Yeah.
yeah, exactly within the Starseed or Lightworker community, something that affects us. Of course, Carol and I plan on tackling even issues that we're not really completely familiar with, and have guests at some point too. I mean, I'd like that she meant that she talked about a quote from Daniel Scranton. I'd love Daniel, if you're out there, brother. Hey, yeah, we'd like to have you on sometime. You know what I mean? We're gonna have Carolyn. We're gonna have Carolyn's Love on here sometime. He's a really cool, informative guy. Have him. Other people too. We may need him because when we talk about this dream show coming up, and we're gonna do about the nighttime dreams. Carol and I are both on the same page with the daydreaming thing, but we're not big. Neither one of us are big astral travelers, okay? But although I'm sure she's. I'm a fan of hearing people that do it. I'm a big fan of it, okay? I'm a big fan of all these other things within our community. It's so diverse: palm readers, card readers, astrologists, psychics. I'm a fan of that kind of work, right? So but it's just not my forte. Reiki, man, people that take Reiki serious. I'm a fan of that. Okay, so any ideas that you have above that, because we've already got those subjects in mind. Anything you think we should cover that's imperative to the Starseed cause, the Lightworker cause, people that are, forget those labels, but people that are on to making this world a better place, and all about the light and the love, and no phony 1980s, new age bullshit with light and love, it's no new age deception. We're all about a blue age reception here. So with that being said, Carolyn, was there anything else that you didn't want to cover? Anything else? I just want to make sure and
No,
be polite.
I like what you said because that thought had popped in my head too, is to see what people want to hear. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that.
exactly within reason. We're not going to cover the
What
history
will
of
serve.
trigonometry. Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
cover
yeah.
the history of trigonometry, but yeah. Okay, yeah,
Yep.
Carolyn can do that in an episode sometime later if you really desire it. But here's the deal. Okay, everybody, for Carolyn Lanier Roberts in San Antonio, Texas, I am Rockin' Larry Locken on the Oregon coast of the United States. And with that being said, we're going to give everybody out there a big dating game kiss. Mwah, da, 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 da. Yeah, look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, all right, and we are Audi 5000. All right, Carolyn, I'll call you in a second.
Okay.
Da, da, da.